The heroin was shitty. There was no other way to put it. The dealer had promised the good stuff, the kind that took you on a smooth ride, like floating on a warm cloud. Instead, this batch burned going in and left a dull ache in its wake, an unpleasant reminder of the choices that had led to this moment. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my bare feet against the stained carpet of the hotel room, flexing my toes absently as my mind drifted. The room smelled like spilled vodka and cheap perfume, a scent so distinct it could have been bottled and sold as Bad Decisions No. 5. The girls were still laughing in the other room, the shrill sound of drunken delight. My bachelorette party, my last night of freedom, or so they called it. I should have felt something more, excitement, anticipation, maybe even a little fear, but all I felt was this strange, creeping numbness. It wasn't the heroin, at least not entirely. It was the questions. The ones I had been pushing down for weeks, for months. The ones I drowned in wedding plans and floral arrangements and dress fittings. Was I really ready to be someone's wife? Did I love him enough? Did he love me enough? Or was I just going through the motions, checking off the socially accepted milestones of adulthood? The doubt was a quiet whisper most of the time, but tonight it had a microphone, screaming into the recesses of my mind, demanding answers I didn't have. I reached for my phone on the nightstand and stared at the screen. A message from Mason, sweet, dependable Mason, popped up. Hope you're having fun, babe. Can't wait to marry you. My stomach twisted. Fun. That was the expectation. But fun was just another mask I wore. I had played the role so well that even I had started to believe it. The carefree bride-to-be, the one who deserved a wild night with her best friends before stepping into a lifetime of commitment. Come on, bitch. Get out here. We got another round of shots. Brittany's voice pierced through the fog in my head. I took a deep breath, shaking off the heavy thoughts. It was just jitters. That's what everyone said, right? Every bride got them. It didn't mean anything. So why did it feel like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at a life I wasn't sure I wanted? I put the phone down and pushed myself off the bed. The night wasn't over yet. And neither was my freedom. The bass from the club speakers pulsed through the walls of the hotel room like a second heartbeat, relentless and intoxicating. I stepped out into the hall, the air thick with the scent of spilled liquor and expensive perfume. My head swam, a mix of alcohol and something deeper, something restless. Brittany's voice rang out behind me. Where do you think you're going? I turned, forcing a smirk. Just need some air. She narrowed her eyes, swaying slightly on her stilettos. No running off, bride-to-be. This night is about you. I waved her off and walked toward the elevators, but I had no intention of stopping at the lobby. The night felt unfinished, like a sentence cut off before the climax. The kind of night that whispered promises of secrets, of things better left undone. When the elevator doors slid open, I found him leaning against the back wall. Dark suit, undone tie, sleeves rolled up, like he belonged at some high-end business meeting but had lost interest halfway through. He was staring at his phone, thumb hovering over the screen, until he looked up and locked eyes with me. Lost? His voice was smooth, edged with curiosity. I hesitated for a second too long. No. Just needed a break. A smirk tugged at his lips. From the party? From everything. Yeah. He stepped forward, close enough that I could catch the scent of cologne and something undeniably male. Lucky me, then. The doors slid shut behind me. The next decision was mine to make. The silence between us stretched as the elevator began its slow descent. The hum of the machinery, the distant echoes of laughter from the party I had left behind, it all faded as his eyes stayed locked on mine. The weight of the unspoken pressed against my skin, hot and electric. Tell me, he said, voice low, a whisper against the tension. Are you the kind of woman who likes to run, or the kind who likes to be chased? A shiver ran through me. I don't run, I said, lifting my chin slightly. His smirk deepened, something dark flickering behind his gaze. Good. Then what are you doing here? I swallowed. The right answer would be that I needed space, that I wasn't looking for trouble. But that wasn't the truth, was it? The truth was, trouble had already found me, standing mere inches away in the form of this man with the knowing smirk and the kind of presence that made my pulse skitter out of rhythm. The elevator chimed. The doors slid open. The lobby stretched before us, dimly lit and near empty at this hour. But he didn't move, and neither did I. The air between us was thick, charged, daring one of us to make the next move. Still need air? He asked, tilting his head slightly. I exhaled slowly, the breath trembling just enough to betray me. Maybe. Or maybe I need something else. His eyes darkened, the space between us suddenly feeling impossibly small. Then let's find out. Without another word, he stepped forward, and I followed. The night air hit me like a shock of ice, but the heat radiating between us made it feel anything but cold. He walked beside me, his presence an unspoken force drawing me in. My heels clicked against the pavement as we moved toward the dimly lit street outside the hotel, the distant hum of traffic filling the silence between us. Where are we going? I asked, my voice steady despite the erratic pulse hammering beneath my skin. He slid his hands into his pockets, glancing sideways at me. Somewhere quiet. Unless you're having second thoughts. I let out a short breath, part frustration, part anticipation. I don't do second thoughts. His lips quirked in that knowing smirk, like he could see straight through my bravado. Good. We reached a secluded alleyway lined with soft pools of golden light from a nearby street lamp. The world felt smaller here, like we had slipped between the cracks of reality and stepped into something illicit, something reckless. He turned to face me, his gaze dark, unreadable. Tell me why you left your own party, he murmured, stepping closer. Tell me what you're really running from. My breath hitched. I could still hear the distant echo of laughter, of clinking glasses and slurred toasts to my future. But that world felt a million miles away now. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Maybe I wanted to forget for a moment. His fingers brushed against mine, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver racing down my spine. Then let me help you forget. I should have stepped back. I should have thought about what came next. But instead, I tilted my face up to his, my heart pounding as his lips hovered just inches from mine. And then, the world around us disappeared. His lips brushed against mine, a ghost of a touch, as if waiting for me to make the final choice. My breath caught, the world shrinking down to the space between us, the heat of his body, the electric anticipation thrumming in my veins. But just as I was about to close the distance, a sudden noise shattered the fragile moment, a sharp metallic clang from deeper in the alley. My body stiffened, my instincts screaming at me to turn, to look. His hand caught my wrist, firm but not forceful, as if he knew exactly what I was feeling. Relax, he murmured, but his voice had lost some of its lazy confidence. I swallowed hard, forcing my breathing to slow. What was that? Probably just a stray cat knocking something over, he said, though his gaze flicked toward the darkness behind me. I pulled back slightly, my pulse still erratic, but now for a different reason. My earlier desire was tainted with something sharper, an edge of unease. We should go, I said, my voice softer than I intended. His expression darkened, a flicker of something unreadable passing through his eyes. You're afraid. I hesitated. No, I don't know what I'm doing here. He let out a quiet chuckle, though there was no amusement in it. That makes two of us. A gust of wind swept through the alley, sending a discarded paper fluttering past us. The world felt suddenly bigger again, reality seeping back in. I stepped away, my body still humming from the near kiss, from the weight of his gaze on me. Then, another sound, a shuffle, unmistakably human. Not just a stray cat. His posture shifted subtly, no longer just a man flirting in the shadows but something else entirely. Protective. calculating. I turned my head just enough to see movement in the darkness. A figure, barely discernible, lurking at the mouth of the alley. Watching. He moved closer to me, his voice now a low command. Stay behind me. The night had promised danger. I just hadn't realized how literal that promise had been. His body tensed as he took a step in front of me, shielding me from the unknown figure lurking in the shadows. My heart pounded as the alley suddenly felt much too narrow, the air thick with something I couldn't name, fear, excitement, uncertainty. But then, just as quickly as the tension had spiked, the figure turned and disappeared into the night. A lingering presence, a warning, or maybe just another stranger in a city that never truly sleeps. He exhaled, turning to me, his dark eyes searching mine. Come on, he said, his voice lower now, rougher. Let's get you back inside. I hesitated for only a moment before nodding, my pulse still skittering wildly. Without another word, he led me back to the hotel, his hand firm at the small of my back, a quiet possession in his touch. The lobby was nearly empty when we stepped inside, the remnants of my bachelorette party a distant hum behind closed doors. The elevators gleamed under the dim lights, the gold buttons reflecting my own conflicted expression. He pressed the button, the doors sliding open, and I stepped in. He followed. The moment they shut, the space between us seemed impossibly small. Are you still looking to forget? His voice was a whisper now, tempting, dangerous. I swallowed hard. Yes. The next second, his mouth was on mine. No hesitation, no second thoughts. It was fire, hunger, a reckless decision made without fear of consequence. His hands gripped my waist, pulling me flush against him, and I surrendered to the urgency between us. When the elevator dinged, I barely registered it. I barely noticed anything but the heat of his breath, the press of his body against mine as we stumbled into the dimly lit hallway. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew this was wrong. But the truth was, I didn't care. Not tonight. The door to his room clicked shut behind us. And then, there was nothing left to stop us. Morning light streamed through the hotel window, painting golden streaks across the tangled sheets. The warmth of another body beside me was undeniable, yet it sent a cold shiver down my spine. What have I done? I turned my head slowly, heart pounding, to find him lying beside me, his face relaxed in sleep, the chaos of last night hidden beneath the soft rise and fall of his chest. My stomach twisted as memories rushed in, his hands on my skin, the way he whispered my name like a secret, the reckless hunger that had drowned out every rational thought. A wave of nausea hit me. Not from the alcohol, but from the weight of the truth. I betrayed Ethan. The thought clawed at me, making my breath come short. I sat up carefully, pulling the sheet around me as if it could somehow shield me from the enormity of what had happened. My phone lay on the nightstand, the screen dark. I didn't have to check it to know there were messages waiting, messages from Brittany, from my bridesmaids, maybe even from Ethan himself. Ethan. My fiancé. My future. I swallowed against the lump in my throat. What kind of woman does this? What kind of woman wakes up in another man's bed days before her wedding? The man beside me stirred, a low murmur escaping his lips as he shifted, his hand brushing against my thigh. I flinched as if burned, my pulse spiking. I needed to leave. Now. Carefully, I slid out of bed, grabbing my dress from the floor, my fingers shaking as I pulled it over my body. Every move felt sluggish, heavy with regret. I cast one last glance at him, at the evidence of my mistake, before slipping out of the room. The hallway was eerily quiet as I made my way back to my own suite, every step echoing in my head like an accusation. My reflection in the elevator doors was unfamiliar, lips swollen from stolen kisses, hair tangled from fingers that weren't Ethan's. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rewind time and erase every second of last night. But I couldn't. And now, I had to decide what to do next. I stepped into my hotel room and shut the door behind me, pressing my back against it as if I could physically hold back the weight of my mistake. My hands trembled as I smoothed down my dress, trying to erase any trace of the night before. The air felt thick, suffocating, filled with the scent of guilt. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I hesitated before picking it up, my pulse hammering in my ears. A message from Ethan. Morning, beautiful. Hope you had fun last night. Can't wait to see you later. Love you. My stomach clenched. Love you. The words felt heavier than they ever had before. I forced a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. I had to act normal. No one could ever know. If I just kept moving, kept smiling, I could convince everyone, including myself, that nothing had happened. A knock at the door made me jolt. Brittany's voice rang through. Hey, sleepyhead. Open up. We need to talk about last night. My heart leapt into my throat. Did she know? Had someone seen me? I hurried to the mirror, checking my reflection. I looked almost normal, except for the guilt pooling in my eyes, the slight smudge of lipstick that wasn't mine, the way my lips still tingled from his kiss. I wiped at my mouth furiously before plastering on a smile and pulling open the door. Brittany burst in, all energy and excitement. You disappeared last night. Where did you go? I forced a laugh. Just needed some air. Too many shots. You know how I get. She narrowed her eyes playfully. Yeah, but you weren't answering your phone. We thought you might have gone off on some scandalous adventure. I swallowed hard, my smile never faltering. Nothing scandalous, I promise. Just some fresh air and a headache this morning. She sighed dramatically. Ugh, lucky you. Meanwhile, the rest of us made total fools of ourselves. Relief flooded me. She didn't know. No one knew. Then, with one final breath, I straightened my veil and stepped forward, the weight of my secret pressing down on me alone. No one knew. No one ever would. And so, I smiled, stepping into the future I had chosen, letting the past dissolve into the shadows where it belonged.